$40,000 sitting in a checking account, not invested, not working, just sitting there while inflation did what inflation always does. And the person watching it do nothing was not someone who just graduated and never managed money before. It was me, someone who had spent over 2 decades making financial decisions across 4 continents, who had worked in some of the most complex business environments on the planet. And Canada stopped me cold. Not because the system is impossible to understand. It is actually quite logical once you are inside it. But when you arrive, you are not inside it. You are standing at the door of a system that was never explained to you, holding real money, making real decisions, with no map. I have talked on this channel about the mistakes immigrants make in their first year financially. Today I am going one level deeper. I am going to show you exactly what I did with that money, the accounts I opened, the order I opened them in, why that order matters, and the specific mistakes I made inside the account setup process that I have never seen anyone else talk about honestly. If you are sitting on savings right now and you do not know where to start, this video is the map I wish someone had handed me the week I landed. I went through this myself when I arrived in Canada, not as a theory, as a permanent resident with real money, real deadlines, and real consequences. That is the only lens this channel operates from. Now let us get into it. Let me show you what the numbers say about where most immigrants actually stand. Because when I found these, I stopped feeling like my situation was unusual and started understanding it was almost universal. A 2022 report from the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada found that fewer than 30% of newcomers to Canada reported understanding how TFSA contribution room works within their first year of arrival. Read that again. The TFSA is one of the most powerful tax-free investment vehicles available to anyone living in Canada. You can invest inside it, grow your money completely sheltered from tax, and withdraw whenever you want with zero tax consequence. And nearly 3/4 of newcomers spend their entire first year not understanding it well enough to use it properly. That is not a minor knowledge gap. That is months of compounding that simply never happened. Statistics Canada data from 2023 showed that immigrants who have been in Canada fewer than 5 years contribute to RRSPs at significantly lower rates than Canadian born residents. The leading reason was not lack of income, it was lack of familiarity with how the account actually works. This matters because the RRSP is not just a retirement vehicle sitting passively in the background. Every dollar you put into it reduces your taxable income for that year. If you landed a strong professional role and you are in a higher tax bracket, you are leaving a significant tax refund uncollected every single year you delay contributing. That refund does not disappear, it compounds, but only if you act on it. Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada published findings in 2023 showing that the majority of economic class immigrants arrive with meaningful professional savings. The barrier was not capital, it was confidence in an unfamiliar system. That number is the most honest data point I have seen about the immigrant financial experience. We arrive qualified, we arrive resourced, and we stall, not because of what we lack, but because of what we do not yet recognize. The system is not hostile to us, it is just foreign, and foreign is fixable. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation released data in 2023 showing that newcomers who open a first home savings account within their first 2 eligible years build a statistically meaningful head start toward their first home purchase compared to those who delay. The FHSA launched in 2023. Most Canadians are still catching up to what it actually does. Most immigrants have not heard of it at all. It gives you tax-deductible contributions going in, tax-free growth while the money is inside it, and tax-free withdrawals when you use it for a first home. If you have not opened one yet, you are behind before the race has started. The Canadian Financial Literacy Database, published by the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, found that immigrants who access structured financial literacy resources within their first year show higher rates of retirement account participation and lower rates of high interest debt within 3 years of arrival. 3 years. That is the compounding window that sets the trajectory for the next 30. What you do in years 1, 2, and 3 in this country does not just affect those years, it affects the curve of everything that follows. That is why this conversation matters right now, not later. I want to walk you through exactly what happened when I sat down to do this myself, because the version I am about to tell you is not the clean one, it is the real one. I had 40,000 Canadian dollars. That money came from severance pay I received when I left my role in Abu Dhabi. Years of work, compressed into a single transfer sitting in a checking account in a country where I was still figuring out which roads led where. My first move was to open accounts on both Wealthsimple and Questrade. I had done enough reading to know these were the platforms serious self-directed investors in Canada used. Low cost, no commissions on ETF trades, clean interfaces. And then I sat down to actually complete the onboarding. I want to be honest about what that felt like because nobody talks about this part. The paperwork for opening registered accounts as a newcomer is not short. There are residency declarations, beneficiary designation forms, account agreements, tax election documents. For someone who had signed complex international employment contracts across multiple jurisdictions, I expected to move through it quickly. I closed the laptop after 40 minutes on the first attempt, not because it was impossible, because it was dense and I was tired and I told myself I would come back when I had more mental bandwidth. And then a week passed, and then two. What finally pushed me through was a single decision. I stopped trying to understand everything before acting, and I started acting in order to understand. Those are two completely different approaches, and only one of them actually works. I opened the checking account first. Then, when I had that foundation, I went back and opened the TFSA. The moment I saw the contribution room sitting there with my name attached to it, something clicked that no article had been able to explain to me. You cannot understand these accounts from the outside. You understand them the moment you are inside them. So I kept going. The RRSP next. Then the FHSA once I understood my long-term plans here were real and not provisional. Then an RESP for my children. Then a non-registered account for capital that exceeded my registered limits. That full sequence took me several months. It does not need to take you that long because I am handing you the sequence right now. But I want you to hear the honest version before I give you the clean framework. The overwhelm you feel looking at those documents is not a signal that you are not ready. It is just the front door. Push through it once and you will not face it again. The psychological shift that happened when that $40,000 moved from a checking account into accounts that were actually structured and working, that shift was not just financial. It was a signal I sent to myself. I am not here temporarily, I am building here. That decision, made clearly and on purpose, changed my posture toward everything else in this country. Here's the exact framework. 6 steps. The order is deliberate. Do not rearrange it. Step 1. The foundation account. Before a single investment account is opened, you need a functioning Canadian checking account at a major institution. Not because it earns you anything, it will not, but because every other financial move you make in this country connects back to this account first. Your direct deposit lands here, your investment platforms link here, your bill payments originate here. The 5 major banks, RBC, TD, BMO, Scotiabank, and CIBC, all offer newcomer banking packages. Most waive monthly fees for the first year if you arrive with proof of recent immigration status. Walk in with your passport, your PR card or work permit, and your SIN number. The account opens the same day. Here's the exact question to ask when you walk in. I am a newcomer and I am interested in your newcomer banking package. I also want to understand what investment accounts I can open here and what the associated fees are. How they respond to the second part of that question will tell you immediately whether that branch is there to help you or to sell you a product. For newcomers, this account is not glamorous, but it is non-negotiable. Nothing else in this framework runs without it. Step 2. The tax-free first move. With the checking account live, the next move is opening a TFSA, Tax-free savings account. The name undersells it badly. This is not a savings account in the traditional sense. It is a tax-free investment account where you can hold stocks, ETFs, bonds, and mutual funds. Every dollar of growth, every dividend, every capital gain inside that account is completely shielded from the Canada Revenue Agency. The annual contribution limit is currently $7,000. As a newcomer, your contribution room begins accumulating the year you become a Canadian resident, not the year you were born, not the year you get citizenship, the year you land as a resident. That distinction matters because some newcomers assume they missed years of room. You did not miss anything. Your clock started when you arrived. The concrete move for this step is to go to Wealthsimple or Questrade. Both are free to open and charge no commissions on ETF trades, and open the TFSA first. Deposit what you can up to your available room. Then buy a single all-in-one ETF to start, something like VFV or VGRO. You do not need to become a stock analyst in year one. You need to start the compounding clock, and a simple diversified ETF does that without requiring you to make ongoing active decisions. For immigrants especially, the TFSA has one feature that makes it uniquely suited to your situation in the first few years. The money is completely accessible. You are in a new country. Unexpected costs happen. The TFSA does not lock your money away, and that flexibility is not a minor detail when your financial life is still finding its shape in a new system. Step 3. The tax return machine. This is the RRSP, the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, and I need to reframe how you think about it because most newcomers hear the word retirement and mentally file it under things to deal with eventually. That instinct costs real money every year you act on it. Yes, the RRSP is designed for retirement, but the near-term function of the RRSP is a tax refund machine, and that function starts working the moment you make your first contribution. Every dollar you contribute to your RRSP reduces your taxable income for that year on a dollar-for-dollar basis. If you are in a 40% marginal tax bracket and you contribute $10,000, you are getting $4,000 back from the CRA at tax time. That is not hypothetical. That is how the calculation works. That $4,000 is your own money that you would have surrendered in tax if you had not contributed. The government is structurally incentivizing you to save for retirement by returning a significant portion of your current tax bill. This is the most direct and predictable return available anywhere in the Canadian financial system, and immigrants consistently underuse it in the early years. The concrete move here is to contribute to your RRSP before the annual deadline, which is typically the first 60 days of the following calendar year for the previous tax year's contribution. And when you file your taxes for the first time in Canada, work with a tax professional who has specific experience with newcomers. Ask them directly, do you have experience with first-year Canadian tax returns for newcomers? If they hesitate, find someone else. For newcomers who arrive having earned strong international salaries, you may be in a high tax bracket from your first year of Canadian employment. That is actually a signal to maximize your RRSP contribution, not a reason to delay it. Step 4. The Home Starter Account. This is the first home savings account, the FHSA, and it launched in 2023. It is the newest tool in the Canadian financial system. A remarkable number of Canadians still have not opened one. Among immigrants, the awareness is even lower. Here is what makes it structurally unusual. Contributions are tax deductible, which is the RRSP benefit. Growth inside the account is completely tax-free, which is the TFSA benefit. And when you withdraw the money, specifically to buy your first home in Canada, you pay zero tax on it. Unlike the RRSP Home Buyers Plan, which gives you access to RRSP funds for a home purchase, but requires you to repay the money over 15 years, the FHSA has no repayment requirement. The withdrawal is clean. You can contribute up to $8,000 per year. The lifetime maximum is $40,000. If you do not use the account for a home purchase within 15 years of opening it, you can transfer the entire balance directly into your RRSP with no tax consequence. The account does not expire into a penalty. It converts into another valuable registered vehicle. The concrete move for this step is to open the FHSA today, regardless of whether you have decided to buy a home in Canada. Open it. Contribute $8,000 this year if you can. The contribution room for years you did not have the account open cannot be recovered. 2 years of inaction is $16,000 of tax advantage space permanently lost. For immigrants, this account has a structural advantage that often goes unnoticed. You are almost certainly a first-time home buyer in Canada by definition. You did not own Canadian property before you arrived. The FHSA was designed for exactly your position, even if the government literature does not frame it that way. Step 5. The Family Forward Account. If you have children or plan to have them in Canada, the RESP deserves your attention early. Registered Education Savings Plan. The Canadian government contributes 20 cents for every dollar you put into an RESP, up to a maximum grant of $500 per child per year, through the Canada Education Savings Grant. That is a guaranteed 20% return on your first $2,500 of annual contributions before a single market gain occurs. There is no manufactured equivalent to a guaranteed 20% return anywhere in this financial system. Not in equities, not in real estate, not in any registered or non-registered vehicle. The RESP government grant is the closest this country comes to handing you free money, and immigrant families with children consistently underuse it because they either do not know it exists or they assume it is available only to citizens. It is not. Permanent residents qualify immediately, and the grant accumulates based on how early you start. The concrete move here is to open an RESP as soon as your child has a social insurance number. You do not need to maximize contributions from day one. A consistent monthly contribution of even $100 starts the government grant clock and begins the compounding. Both Wealthsimple and Questrade offer RESPs at no cost. For immigrant families, the RESP is not just a financial vehicle. It is an act of commitment to your children's starting position in this country. Every contribution is a statement that you are building here with intention. Step 6. The Overflow Engine. Once your TFSA, RRSP, FHSA, and RESP are open and funded to the level your current income allows, you may have additional capital sitting beyond your registered account limits. This is where the non-registered investment account comes in. No contribution limits, no government grants, no special tax treatment on the way in, but it is still significantly more productive than a checking account, and it gives you access to exactly the same investment universe available inside your registered accounts. The tax treatment here is different, and you need to understand it before you use this account. Capital gains in a non-registered account are partially taxable in the year you realize them. Dividends are taxable in the year you receive them. You will need to track your transactions carefully for your annual return. This is where a qualified accountant earns their fee. The concrete move for this step is simple. Open the non-registered account on the same platform you already use for your other accounts. One app, one login, one consolidated view of your financial position. Complexity is the enemy of consistency, and consistency is what builds wealth over time. For immigrants who arrived with significant accumulated savings from overseas employment, severance pay, years of foreign savings, this account is often where that capital lives while your registered contribution room catches up to the capital you have available. It is the engine you run when the other tanks are full. Now I want to talk about the specific mistakes that happen during the account setup process itself. Not the general first-year financial mistakes. Those are a different conversation. These are the mistakes that happen specifically when immigrants sit down to open and use these accounts, including mistakes I made myself. Mistake 1. Opening the accounts but never actually funding them. This one is more common than it sounds, and I understand exactly why it happens. You complete the onboarding paperwork. You feel the relief of having ticked the box. The account exists. And then weeks pass before you transfer any money into it, because transferring money feels like a bigger commitment than just opening the account. Immigrants specifically make this mistake because the account opening itself feels like a significant act of navigation. You fought through the paperwork, you figured out the platform, and that effort registers as progress. But a TFSA with $0 in it is not a TFSA. It is an empty container that is doing nothing. The real cost is time. Every week that account sits unfunded is compounding that does not happen. Contribution room does not stop accumulating whether you use it or not, but your money certainly does not grow in an account you never put money into. What to do instead? On the same day you open each account, transfer a minimum amount into it, even $100. The psychological act of funding changes your relationship to the account from something you completed to something you are actively building. Mistake 2. Opening all the accounts at once and then freezing. This is the opposite problem, and I have watched it happen with several colleagues who arrived around the same time I did. They did the research, they understood the full picture, and then they tried to open a TFSA, RRSP, FHSA, RESP, and non registered account simultaneously in one sitting. The document volume at that scale is genuinely overwhelming. Multiple beneficiary designations, multiple account agreements, multiple tax forms, all at once. The session ends without completing any of them properly, and then the whole project gets shelved because it feels too large to revisit. The real cost here is not just the delay. It is that a bad or incomplete setup on a registered account can have tax consequences that are irritating and sometimes costly to unwind. What to do instead? Follow the sequence in this video, one account at a time. Complete it fully, fund it minimally, then move to the next. Spread it across days or weeks if you need to. The compounding benefit of opening your TFSA correctly in week 1 outweighs the marginal benefit of opening everything simultaneously and setting up half of it incorrectly. Mistake 3. Naming no beneficiary or the wrong beneficiary on registered accounts. This one is quiet until it is catastrophic. When you open a TFSA or RRSP, you are asked to designate a beneficiary. Many newcomers skip this field or fill it in without understanding what it means in a Canadian legal context, particularly if their estate planning was structured in another country. Immigrants specifically make this mistake because beneficiary designations feel like a formality during the excitement of setting up new accounts, and the rules in Canada around what happens to a TFSA or RRSP when the account holder dies without a properly designated beneficiary are genuinely different from what most people assume. The real cost is this. If you die without a named beneficiary on your TFSA, the account value may be included in your estate and exposed to probate fees and potential delays that a simple designation would have avoided entirely. For an RRSP without a named beneficiary or eligible successor, the full value can become taxable income in the year of death, which means a significant tax bill landing on your estate at the worst possible time. What to do instead? When you open each registered account, stop at the beneficiary section and complete it thoughtfully. If you have a spouse or common law partner, understand the difference between naming them as a successor holder versus a beneficiary, because those two designations have different tax consequences in Canada. If you are unsure, this is a specific question for a Canadian estate lawyer or a fee-only financial planner. 1 hour of professional advice on this point is worth far more than the cost of the meeting. Mistake 4. Not understanding that TFSA overcontribution penalties are immediate and automatic. The TFSA contribution room rule catches people who have contributed to TFSAs in a previous year, withdrew money, and then recontributed the same calendar year, assuming the room was immediately restored. It is not. If you withdraw from your TFSA in December and recontribute in the same December, you may have overcontributed depending on your available room. The Canada Revenue Agency charges 1% per month on the overcontribution amount, automatically, without a warning letter first. Immigrants specifically make this mistake in the first year because the TFSA flexibility is presented as a feature, which it is, without the accompanying explanation that withdrawal room is only restored on the 1st of January of the following calendar year. The real cost is a penalty that arrives quietly in a CRA notice months later, for an amount that feels small until you calculate how long the overcontribution sat there. What to do instead? Before any TFSA withdrawal and recontribution in the same year, log into your CRA My account and check your exact available room. Make this a reflex. The CRA My account portal shows your TFSA room in real time, and it takes less than 2 minutes to verify. Build that check into every TFSA transaction, and this mistake becomes impossible. 3 things worth carrying out of this video. The Canadian investment system is not designed against immigrants. It is just unfamiliar, and unfamiliar is a problem with a straightforward solution called starting. The front end is heavy, and the back end works for you for decades. The sequence matters more than the speed. TFSA first, then RRSP, then FHSA, then RESP, then non-registered. One at a time, funded immediately, set up correctly. That order is not arbitrary. It follows the tax logic of the system. And the mistakes that cost immigrants the most in the account setup process are not the dramatic ones. They are the quiet ones. Empty accounts, incomplete beneficiaries, misunderstood withdrawal rules, small oversights with long compounding consequences. Here is your one action for today, not this week, today. Go to your CRA My account at canada.ca and check your TFSA contribution room. If you do not have a CRA My account yet, set one up today. It takes about 20 minutes, and it is the single most important financial dashboard you have access to in this country. Everything flows through it. Know your number before you invest a single dollar. This channel exists for one reason: to give global professionals building a life in Canada the inside information that takes years of first-hand experience to accumulate, delivered directly, without the noise or the generic advice that treats every immigrant as if they just arrived with nothing. You came here with skills, experience, and in most cases, real capital. This channel treats you accordingly. If that is what you have been looking for, subscribe now and turn on notifications. What is coming in this series is built specifically for people who are serious about getting this right.